Yay! All right, so welcome to the video. I have a feeling most of you are going to be watching this at a later time, but please don't hesitate to say hello. Coming to you live. My name is Kimberly Denise. I am unable to go live on my Facebook for I don't know how long. I recently was put in Facebook jail, and I went to go do a live right now on my Facebook, and I'm completely like, I just can't do it. They gave me some weird excuse as to why I cannot do lives. So I'm like, you know what? I haven't done a live yet on this account. This is a relatively new account for me, so this is my first time doing a live. So if you have never met me before, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and you can tell me a little bit about yourself in the comments. Say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know what it is you do in the world. Why are you on Instagram? Why are you on the internet? And I'll share the same with you. So my name is Kimberly Denise, and I'm an infinite cosmic being in a human body, here to remind the world and humanity that you are too. That you are not your body, that you are the consciousness in your body and behind your body and moving through your body and animating your body. And because of that, you have the power to heal your body. You have the power to heal the vessel that you live in, which we call the human body, through the power of your mind, through the power of your intention, and through the power of plants and fungi and nutrition and food. Should it be real food, right? So I just want to talk today a little bit about what I believe in and really, connect with people who believe the same things. Because right now our world is in a crisis, if you haven't noticed. The past 3 years or so, almost 3 years now, we've been dealing with these issues in the world where a lot of people are getting sick, a lot of people are dying, a lot of people are, diseases are on the rise. The number one killer of people in the United States of America, which is where I am. I don't know where you are. Let me know in the comments down below where you're tuning in from. But is heart disease, right? And then you have, I think cancer is the second, and third is medical malpractice, or whatever that official term for that is. I don't know what that is, but basically mistakes that are made by the medical field, or mistakes that are made in surgery, or mistakes that are just made by a medical professional, or a misdiagnosis, or whatever. But we're all very obviously, as humanity, having a crisis. We're having a crisis of forgetting who we truly are. And truly, it's a consciousness crisis, in my humble opinion. It's not so much a crisis of we don't know what to do to be healthy, because that evidence is there. It's not so much that we don't know what to eat, because that information is there as well. It's not so much that we don't know what to do to live a healthy life and a thriving life, because we have individuals that have lived and walked on this planet for decades and decades and years. And there's lots of literature, and there's lots of information, and there's lots of proof, and there's just lots of evidence everywhere on how to live a healthy life. But for some reason, as humanity, we're still struggling to figure it out. We're still struggling to know exactly what it is to do. And so I believe that it's a consciousness issue that we're having. We're having a crisis of consciousness, and it's for various different reasons. There's groups of people in the world that don't want people to wake up to realize who they truly are. There's people that would rather us just think that we're just human beings and we're here to work a job for 70, 80 years and then just die, and then that's it. Just work all day, pay bills, and die, and that's all that we're here to do. There's people that want you to believe that, whatever runs in your family, that's what has to happen to you, and that's going to be your fate. And they want you to believe that whatever you're diagnosed with from a doctor, just because they're a doctor and they say that you have something, that you're just going to have that for the rest of your life, and you need to become a customer now of this medication, and you need to take this stuff, and just that's your life destiny now. There's groups of people in the world that for decades have been suppressing natural remedies and natural medicines and plant medicines and medicines of the earth, and saying that they're drugs, and saying that they're substances that are dangerous and that are cause people to go crazy and all these things. But now we're finding out that these substances and these plants and these mushrooms and all of these things are actually tools to not only use for our healing in the body, but to use for our consciousness expansion. See, what I have personally experienced, it's not something I read in a book. It's not something I saw in a documentary. It's not anything that I saw from a third party and now I'm just making an opinion on it, or I'm telling you something that I learned in school, or I'm telling you something that someone told me and so now I'm believing what they told me. I speak from my personal experience with these substances, with plants and with mushrooms and with these things. The healing that I've been able to experience and the healing that others in the communities that I'm a part of have been able to experience. The physical healing, the mental healing, there's just so many articles that are coming to the surface that talk about how, for example, that mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms specifically, they are providing a pathway for people to heal themselves from things like depression and things like being suicidal and struggling with things like post-traumatic stress disorder and dealing with eating disorders and dealing with just all these different things that a lot of people will say is a disease of the mind or is some kind of a disorder of the mind. Hey guys, quiet. But really, it all comes back to the consciousness. It all comes back to the level of awareness that we're existing in and at. Because the state of our body, the state of our health, and the state of our life and our reality, the quality of the life that we're living and all these things, it can all be tracked back to a few different things. And I've talked about this in a couple of different posts that I made recently. But it's something I'm going to really be highlighting a lot because I think right now in our world, we need to hear this now more than ever. We need to understand these foundations more than ever. If you're somebody who's struggling with some kind of hey guys, quiet, okay? If you're struggling with some kind of a disorder, if you have a diagnosis, if you have some kind of health problem or you have a family member who has a health problem, it's important to understand these foundations because these are the foundations that can very possibly and probably heal you should you choose to embrace them. So the first is our belief system. We have to take a look at what is it that we've been believing about ourselves as human beings. Like I said in the beginning, first of all, just believing that you're a human being and that's it. That's one of the first mistakes that we make is just thinking that we're just a flesh and blood body. We're just a human being. We're just a person, right? There's no consciousness animating. There's no kind of a spiritual being behind and animating this avatar of a body that we have. Because we've forgotten this as a collective and we've forgotten this as a whole, things start to happen on the physical level. They happen in our body. They happen as a collective in our society. They happen on the earth. Everything that's happening in our physical realm stems from some kind of a spiritual or a mental cause. So when we understand this, we can kind of like start digging around and asking ourselves, okay, what are the areas that are causing this disorder I'm dealing with, or this health issue, or this problem, or this issue that we're having in our society or in our communities or in our earth, on our planet? There's always some kind of a spiritual or a mental or an unseen cause that's there. It might be unseen, but that is the cause. The world of effects, everything that's physical is the world of effects. So what do we believe about illness, about disease, about wellness, about health? It's been passed down for generations and generations, and we're finding this to be not true anymore, but it's been passed down to us that if there's something in our family that some kind of a disease or disorder, like for example, a lot of different things ran in my family on my mother's side. I don't know a whole lot on my father's side, but on my mother's side, I know a lot. That, my grandma, my mom, probably their mothers too, they suffered with things like arthritis and osteoporosis and high blood pressure and all these different things. Like my grandma was always on a ton of medication. So was my mom. She passed away when I was 17. And all these things, they tell us that if our family members deal with it, then we're probably going to deal with it too. And they kind of condition us to think that like, oh, okay, well, that runs in my family, that runs in my family. So right when I hit like 30 or 40, I'm probably going to start seeing these symptoms and signs, and I'm probably going to start having that too. Like that's how we've been conditioned. But I remember for some reason as a child, like I would hear my grandma say stuff like, this is just a part of getting old, and this is what happens when you get old, and this is just a part of life. Like just basically saying like that was her story, was that, it's just a part of getting old. You start having more pain, you start becoming crippled, you start having problems, you start having to take all these medications, you start having to live this life and this way of like being a sick person, being injured, being disabled, basically. The older you get, the worse it is. And that's what the generations that came before us really were just conditioned to believe, because that's just the way things were. But what we're discovering is that, like in the field of epigenetics, for example, you study people like Greg Braden or Dr. Bruce Lipton or Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I'm a really big fan of and a student of. You see that it doesn't matter what our genetics have, the genes that have been passed down to us, what activates those genes, whether it's a gene where it's a cancer gene or it's a diabetes gene or it's whatever gene that causes whatever illness you want to label, the genes that are in us and in our DNA, they get activated or deactivated by our environment. So the world that we're living in, the things that we're putting into our body, the food that we're eating, the nutrition, the amount of food and nutrition that we're giving to ourselves, so the food that we're feeding ourselves, and then what we put into our mind, such as the things that we believe, the thoughts that we think, the moods that we choose to stay in, and all of this. So all of those things put together either activate genes of disease or they can deactivate genes of disease. So that means that if you already have a disease or you're already struggling with something and you're sick or you have whatever it is, you can deactivate the genes that turn that on by changing your environment, changing your diet, changing your lifestyle, choosing to live a life of movement instead of being sedentary and not moving, and also changing your mind. So changing your mind is the biggest one. So I don't know how many other people, hold on, let me take a drink real quick. If you've been following my content for some time over on the Kimberly Denise or over here or on Facebook or wherever, you know that I'm a huge advocate for plant medicine and for mushrooms as well. Mushrooms are not plants, so I don't like to really group them into that, but entheogens, right? The medicines of the earth medicines. One of the biggest things I think we're going to discover over the next several years, and a theory that I have personally, and I'm sure some other people do, I just haven't really been able to connect with them though, is that these medicines, they not only heal us on a physical level, but they have the capability, hey guys, be quiet, I'm on a live. They have the capability of rewiring the brain in such a way that it equips us to heal ourselves faster, and it equips us to just be able to heal ourselves, period. So I've been seeing articles pop up where, people were in a horrible accident and they were paralyzed and they could no longer move their limbs or their legs, or they could no longer walk. Or, for example, there are people in the communities, the meditation communities that I'm a part of, that were blind, or they had multiple sclerosis, or they had whatever kind of disease, right? And through the power of meditation and accessing these altered states of consciousness, they've been able to reverse the condition. Hey, bud, shh. They've been able, I got a couple of kids, a couple of children over here yapping to each other. So they allow you to, so things like meditation and then also plant medicine allow you to access altered states of consciousness that also allow you to reprogram your mind. So what is happening? What's happening when we access these states of consciousness? What's happening when we alter, people will say, alter your brain or alter your mind, but what's really happening? So my theory is that through the use of entheogens, whether you're just microdosing or you are going on a journey, a higher dose journey with them, or whatever it might, ayahuasca or whatever medicine you choose, specifically mushrooms, what's happening is you're creating new neural pathways in your brain. They've discovered this and found this. There's plenty of articles and scientific evidence that's coming to the surface to show that is what's happening. You're creating new connections in the brain, which helps you to create new habits, new behaviors, new beliefs. It enables you to it softens the beliefs or the connections that you already have in the brain. So if you have connections in your brain right now that are telling you, I am paralyzed, or I have this disease, or I always get sick, or I am overweight and my whole family's overweight, and so I'm just always going to be overweight, or I'm addicted to alcohol, or I'm addicted to this, or I have a food addiction, or I have a whatever. These are all beliefs are physical. Beliefs are physical in our brain, because for every belief that we have, there's a connection up here that's linking two neurons together and saying this is the truth. And then our reality reflects that, or our reality, hold on, I'm getting like some calls or something, or a text message. Our reality shows up to reflect that, to reflect the connections that are made inside of our brain. So I have a theory that, when we use things like mushrooms or we use things like plant medicine, we're putting ourselves in a state where we can undo those beliefs that are no longer serving us, those beliefs that are no longer helping us to create the reality that we want. So a reality of healing, a reality of wholeness, right? But it all comes back to, and it starts with the belief system. So if you're somebody who's struggling with something, you are sick or you have a disorder or whatever it is that you have, the first thing that you have to do is come to the realization. This just comes with awareness. This comes with expanding your mind. This comes with just saying, you know what, maybe I've been suffering for a long time. Because I know it's hard for people. They take on their illnesses and their disease as their identity, and they say, I'm this person. This is just the way it is. It's the way it'll be forever. It's the way that it's always been for everyone else that has this too. So when you're so used to suffering for so long, you get into the habit of suffering, and your body actually becomes addicted to your suffering. Your body actually becomes addicted to the feelings and the emotions and just the going through the experience of having that specific experience and suffering every single day. So the first thing that you have to realize, or just become curious about, is it true that I have to suffer the rest of my life with this? Is it true that my body has to have this injury? Is it true that I have to have this disorder, this disease that my mom and my grandma and my aunt and everybody else had too, because they say that that's genetic and that's just the way it is? Is it true that I have to, even if it's something like cancer, something that's scary to us human beings, if we're diagnosed with something like that, but is it true that every single person who ever gets diagnosed with cancer just, they just wither away and die? Is that true? Start asking more questions about the things that you've already made up your mind about. And that's one of the things that entheogens do as well, is they put you in a place where you do start to question stuff. You do start to question the government. You do start to question the pharmaceutical company. You do start to question society and just the things that we've been told to believe. We start to ask questions about, is that really true? And am I living in a way that is conducive with how reality is really created? And when we start asking those questions, we start finding answers, because what happens is infinite intelligence, or God, or spirit, or whatever label you believe in or you want to put it on, it wants us as a humanity right now in this point in time to remember. It wants us to wake up. It wants us to activate the power that we have lying dormant within ourselves. And a part of that power is healing ourselves. A part of that power is we are designed in an intelligent vessel that heals itself. Think about it. You cut your finger, you get a paper cut, you cut your finger with a knife, you do whatever, accident happens, you skin your knee or whatever. Did you have to do a whole lot of focus on that to really just heal that cut and heal that scrape and make sure that you healed from that? Yeah, sure, that's a little minor thing, but the way that we heal on the outside is the way that we can heal on the inside as well. The body has self-healing mechanisms that just allow us to do that. If we put our body in the right environment, so like I said, the environment is your physical, what you're eating, how you're moving, what you're putting into your body, but also what you're putting into your mind. That has to do with the beliefs and the stories that you're telling yourself about what is true. What are the things that you've been believing for years that are contributing to what you're experiencing physically right now? And the easiest way to find that out is just to start asking yourself, what am I believing in this area? If I'm dealing with fertility issues, if I'm dealing with digestion issues, if I'm dealing with autoimmune disorders, if I'm dealing with, I just literally just get sick all the time, if I'm dealing with back pain, if I'm dealing with whatever I'm dealing with, there has to be some kind of a story behind that I'm telling myself, and I've told myself over and over and over again to continue to experience this physical reality. So I'm talking a lot more about this topic and marrying manifestation and the ideas behind reality creation and manifestation and health together, because I think that it's so important to understand how interwoven the two are. Like, for example, if you're somebody who, you're doing a lot of research, you're trying to figure out, how can I be a more powerful creator? How can I create my own reality? How can I allow my thoughts to become things? And I just want to be a more powerful manifester and creator. Well, becoming stronger in your vessel becoming more magnetic. We're bioelectric magnetic beings. We have a biology, flesh and blood, but we also have electricity and we have magnetism as well. Our heart is magnetic, our brain is electric, and we have all this electricity flowing through us, and we have all this magnetism all around us. We have a field around us that is a real thing, a real electromagnetic field we have around us. And so realizing that everything is connected together and everything is linked. And so if we pay more attention to our health, we pay more attention to how it is that the vessel of consciousness that we have as our body, the temple of God, people call it, right? Our vehicle, our avatar that we're using while we're here on earth, we pay more attention to really optimizing how that runs and how it's going and how it feels. The secret to manifesting, right? Or to creating reality, having your thoughts and your intentions turn into physical reality, right? Saying, I'm going to create this condition in my life and having it come to be, all has to do with the frequency that we are on. Being beings of energy, everything has a vibrational frequency. The glass of water has a frequency. This little, whatever you call it, PlayStation controller charger thing has a frequency. This fork has a frequency. You have a frequency. The chair you're sitting in has a frequency. Everything has a frequency. Everything is not really physical. That's a whole other lie that we can have, right? But everything around us, we think that we're in a physical reality, and we're not really in a physical reality. It's an energetic reality that's appearing physical to us. And once we grasp that idea and we understand that, everything really is energy, and I'm a bunch of energy too, and the conditions that I want to create are energy as well, you realize that all you really need to do is work on aligning yourself with the frequency of what's the condition that you want to experience. If it's happiness, if it's joy, if it's abundance, if it's prosperity, if it's love, if it's health, wellness, whatever it is, you can put the English word on it, but underneath it, it's an energy and it's a frequency. And the frequency you tap into equals the reality that you want to create. So I'm really talking more about linking the two together, because you really can't have one without the other long term, and you can't really thrive with having one without the other. Like, for example, there's lots of people that will go out and create a lot of wealth in the world. They'll create a lot of financial prosperity, but they leave their health to the side. And then what happens is they create all this money, they create all this wealth, all this prosperity, which is nothing wrong with that, right? If you're using it for good purposes. But then if they leave their health to the side, what happens? Well, they have to spend their money on their disease or whatever happens to their body, or their surgery, or whatever happens, because they decided to put that to the side. So I'm here to really shine a light on helping people understand that if you treat yourself as a whole in a holistic way, basically is what it is, addressing the body, addressing the mind, and addressing the spirit all together in your lifestyle, in what you're doing, what you're eating, how you're moving your body has so much to do with the reality that you're creating. I personally believe that we're in a space as humanity, in our evolution and in our conscious evolution, that you have the potential and the ability right now, we have the potential and ability right now as human beings to evolve on an energetic level, and as a response to that, or as an effect to that, or as a result of that, evolving physically as well. And it has a lot to do with changing the way that we're eating. Like right now, we're learning that the diet that society said was the best diet for us, like if you go and look at the food pyramid, or you go and drive down the street and you see the things that people consider food, fast food, and just all these processed things and all these chemicals and all this stuff, we're learning that, okay, that is not an ideal diet for my human body, that I want to be in perfect health, or that I want to experience abundance, or that I want to experience just wholeness and happiness and abundance and love all together. What I eat has a lot to do with that. So back to the whole mushroom thing, and then I'll wrap this up. So I believe that what the people who are studying these medicines are going to find over the next several years, they probably already figured it out, but I haven't seen a whole lot of articles on it, but you can enhance and increase the state of health that you're in through using these substances, largely because yes, they're going to help you with your health and you're on a physical level, but the primary reason is because of the beliefs. It's because it's gonna help humanity evolve their minds to start asking more questions about reality and asking more questions about health and what they believe about themselves personally and their own reality and what they believe about their body and what their body has to experience and doesn't have to experience and what they have to live with and what they don't have to live with. And it's going to help to create those new connections that you need to create in order to experience something new. So if you think about it like this, if you want to create something new in your life, no matter what it is, whether it's you want to heal a disorder, you want to have a new physical experience in your life, in your world, you want to travel, you want to go, you want to find your soulmate, or you want to have children, or whatever it is that you want to do, you're just a connection away from figuring that out on a subconscious level. So what that means is you just have to make a new connection in your brain over and over and over again in order for that experience to be brought into your reality. So if you want to heal, you have to create the connection that healing is a possibility for you. You have to understand that's a potential, that there's a healed version of you that already exists in the universe. I know we're kind of like talking about like a lot of deep subjects that can each be their own live. But the truth about it is that if you do want healing, that if you desire that it's a potential and a possibility for you. And then you have to just put your awareness and your understanding and your attention on that potential and say, okay, the healed version of me exists now. What is it that I have to do to become that healed person now? What does the healed version of me believe about health? What does the healed version of me believe about this disorder that I'm dealing with? What is it? But how does that person operate? How do they live their life every single day? What do they do? How do they move their body? What are the foods that they eat? What's the attitude that they have? How do they treat other people? How do they view themselves? And you really start to ask those questions about, okay, what is this version of myself? And this goes for anything, the rich version of you, the successful version of you, the version of you who found your soulmate or the love of your life or had children or whatever it is that you want to do, succeeded in your career. That version of you exists, and all you have to do is just ask the questions to find out what is it that that version of me does, and then you have to just step into that today and now, in whatever way that you can. So if the healed version of you, you're like, they probably they exercise. The healed version of me eats a lot more plant-based foods. The healed version of me drinks a lot more water. The healed version of me, I see that they do whatever sport that I used to do 10 years ago, and I just put to the side and said, no, I'm too old for that. Or the healed version of me dances all the time, or the healed version of me is singing, or whatever that is. You ask yourself, what is it that I can do today to match myself with that person who has what it is that I want? And again, it goes for anything, the abundant version of you, the rich version of you, the successful version of you, whatever version of you that is already out there in the field. You ask yourself, what can I do today to just go ahead and step into that today? And you concern yourself only with what's happening right now. What can you do right now? How can you think right now? What are the intentions you can set right now? What are the actions you can take right now? Because that is the only time that we have right now. Like we're on this live together right now, or you're watching this replay right now, but in 5 minutes from now, it's not going to be 5 minutes from now. It's going to be now again. It's always just now. So it's all about what are you doing right now in the moment. And you can set your intentions and you make goals and you can do all these things. But when you get around to doing those things, it's also going to be now. So it's all about the present moment. So I have a free microdosing guide. If you're somebody who's curious about microdosing mushrooms, you want to know what is it, what are the benefits, who's it for, who can do it, and are there risks, are there contraindications if I'm pregnant or I'm breastfeeding or I'm a mother or whoever it is, who is it for? If I'm an athlete, how can this substance help me in my athletics? If I'm an entrepreneur, how can it help me become more creative? I have a guide that you can download and you can get it absolutely free right now. So what you would need to do is just drop like a mushroom below in the comments, or just drop a comment, drop info below, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of it. But I would like to know, if you've sat here and watched this, what is your feedback, or what are the things that you've been experiencing in your life? Have you been able to heal yourself of something? Have you seen people around you heal yourself of something? Or are you somebody who's struggling with something right now, and maybe something that I said in this video, maybe it stuck out to you and you're going to go out and try it? I want to know. So share your feedback with me below, and you can look forward to me doing more videos over here on these topics, because like I said, I don't know why, but Facebook is not allowing me to do any videos or lives over there. So I'm going to be here on Instagram a lot more, and also on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok and you like that platform, I think I wasn't supposed to say that here on Instagram for some reason, but hopefully they don't judge me for that. But I'm on the same name over there, at Manifesting in the Hood, on TikTok, so you can tune in and hear more, and we can talk more about these topics over there. All right, I hope you guys have an amazing day. I believe in your infinite potential, and I will see you in the next video.